Welcome to the Bee Shifter podcast. John Vance here today, along with Josh Blum. And we are coming to you here at the beginning of December of 2023. We wanted to talk about some of the things that have occurred this year and some things that are coming up for Blue Card next year. And then a little later on in the conversation, we're going to check in on the latest NIOSH report that's out there, identifying some contributing factors to a recent, fairly recent line of duty death. It's a recent report. How are you doing, Josh?
I'm great.
Good to see you, man.
Nice to see you. I wish I was somewhere where it was a little bit warmer, but I'm always reminded that I have a choice, and I guess I guess not making good choices when it comes to staying here in Cincinnati. That it's cold and gloomy and rainy. But anyway, happy to be here.
We've got sunshine and 29 degrees here in Minnesota. And last night, I didn't see it, but you could see the northern lights from here. So that's one great thing about being in the northern United States, that if you chose to look at the northern lights, you could. Hey, we want to encourage everyone to like, subscribe, and tell a friend. Whether you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe and hit the notification on YouTube. That way you don't miss any new Bee Shifter podcast. Also for Spotify, we had somebody who at least one that we were one of their top listens of 2023 on Spotify. If you happen to be a top listener, direct message us that logo, and we have a little prize for you. So this year we're gonna take care of you, and remember, we will next year too. So as you're listening to the Bee Shifter podcast on Spotify, if you subscribe, you'll be eligible to win some nice prizes next year as well too. We have the Hazard Zone Conference coming up. We have already booked that for 2024. Let's talk about that, and we have early bird pricing available right now too, Josh.
Yeah, so we brought the conference back in 23 and had great attendance, great feedback. I think it was great for everybody to get together and network and socialize, and we were happy to catch up with everybody. Opportunity to give everybody a little bit of an update, and then to bring in this year, I think we had 17 or 18 different presenters that presented over the 2 days, and people could see multiple different classes. Chief Lee from FDNY, Dan from FSRI, Shane Ray from the National Fire Sprinkler Association. And our goal with that is to, keep people connected to like what's going on now and what does it look like into the future. So really not so much some of the past story time, though we can learn from that, but like what's going on today and what can we do and what can we put in your hands and really into your brain that you can take home and use in your own organization to support what you're already doing. So we're bringing it back in 2024. It's the same week. It's October. The conference is actually October 3rd and 4th this year, because we had some questions about, hey, what would it look like if you did something before this, kind of a pre-workshop, some pre-workshop classes. So the 3rd and 4th is the conference on Thursday, Friday. That Tuesday, Wednesday before the conference, we're doing a May Day workshop, the 2-day May Day workshop that we've been running now for, many years. I think we've put several thousand people through that now all across the country. So that's limited to the first 40 people when you register for the conference. And then we're also going to offer a 3-day cert lab Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before the conference. If an organization was looking to get somebody checked off, or you're just starting into Blue Card. And the deal with that is if you register for the conference now, early bird pricing, you get a free online account. So you could actually go through the online, and then you could come to the conference and actually get certified in October. So a lot of things going on. I think this year we've expanded it quite a bit. We're going to have about 30 different presenters, and every student would be able to see like 12 to 15 of those presentations, plus the general session and keynote stuff that we're doing there. And then a great opportunity, obviously, to network with, 750 like-minded people who are mostly, company officers or inspiring company officers and above, to talk about this job and what we do and how we can all do it better.
So if you register now, you get the early bird pricing, which is $415 per student, per participant. Plus you get a Blue Card subscription that's transferable to anybody within your organization. That's a $385 value. So you're really talking about going to a conference if you get on the early bird. Is my math right there?
Yeah, 30 bucks.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
You get the online. You get the online that's $385, and then for $30 more you can come to the conference. So really, you're registering for the conference for $415, and then we're going to give you a free online account. And then if you wanted to come to the May Day workshop or the CERT lab, we're doing that for $700 total. So all 5 days of training for $700, or the May Day workshop and the conference for $700. And if you do that, you still get that transferable, online account. So I've been influencing people. If you're putting people online in your organization, take advantage of that, hey, we're going to buy online subscriptions anyway, for $30 more. I'd pay that out of my pocket. Well, I mean, I've paid so much money out of my own pocket anyway, going to trainings, whatever. That's just what I think people who want to do this job and love this job do anyway. But that's neither here nor there. It's a deal to pay, $415, and then I could give that license to somebody because I was going to buy one anyway for them to go through, or whatever. So
that's awesome. Well, it was a great, and we're still going to have networking. We're still going to go to the brewery across the street and probably have some expanded opportunities too, because they're doing some additions to the conference center in Sharonville, right outside of Cincinnati, that we were at. So I'm sure we'll be taking advantage of that. If you were there, you know that you didn't go hungry, you didn't go thirsty. There were great breaks that we were able to talk to one another. We had vendors there that really complement the Blue Card message, whether it was looking at the safety props. We had the National Fire Sprinkler Association there with their trailer. We'll be doing a lot of stuff like that too. So aside from the normal learning and being able to share knowledge, we also have a lot of opportunities just to network and see what else is going on in the fire service. So go to hazardzonebc.com to register and to get the full information on the conference. If you have a boss or someone to share that with, you can send them that link to show exactly what is planned right now. And so they understand the value of that. And we will be adding more to it, but get in on that early bird pricing. And we know a lot of people have end of the year money right now. You end up, I know my department, we spend down our budgets pretty good because like most, we're lean, but we also get some reimbursements from our state on training, which means that we have a few extra training dollars left. So we're trying to register everybody right now for any classes they're going to go to in 2024 using some of our 2023 money. And we have the opportunity to do that too at bshifter.com, not only for the conference, but for some other classes that we have coming up. What do we have in store for 2024, and how do people get registered for that?
Yeah, so 2024 is looking busier than it was in 2023. So, I mean, right now we already have 27 Train the Trainer classes scheduled and booked. And I have about 17 agencies that are waiting, that we're just waiting to get dates on to schedule Train the Trainers for them. And then we have 4 big box workshops scheduled right now, which you can register at bshifter.com. You can go to bshifter.com. Those classes are listed in there that you could see when we're offering the big box workshops, and we're going to add 1 or 2 more of those classes. And then coming up right around the corner in the first quarter, a class that we've had really good response from the customer base with how well the class went, how the light bulb came on for people. We've always been an organization that wants to train people and give people tools, and most importantly, help people to make decisions during, high stress environments, and give them a playbook, kind of like to help them down that path. So we have the critical thinking and strategic decision making class that's being taught by Chris Stewart, a retired Phoenix deputy chief, who's now a deputy chief, also failing retirement. He's at another place. And then Captain Phillips from Las Vegas Fire Department. So they've delivered that class a couple times now. And every single time we've gotten, overwhelming response. They're actually coming here to Cincinnati to do a little run through with that class coming up in January. And it's just how do we keep growing it? And then we have open seats in the Phoenix strategic decision-making class, critical thinking, in March. So that's also at bshifter.com. And that class is filling up pretty quickly. And you can see the information there. That information was in the buck slip. And I think, John, we can probably throw it into this one again. Like, here's the information. And then, John, you want to mention it. It slipped my mind. I don't remember what the date is, but we got a little teaser coming up that's free webinar on that class.
Yes, we have a 1 hour free webinar coming up this week. So if you're listening to this when the podcast came out on December 6th, that's Wednesday, December 6th, at, I believe, noon Eastern time, but check the link. I'll put the link in the show notes so you can sign up. Right now, we're about half full, so I think we have about 140 people signed up for it. We can get another 110 in the class. Then we'll have to cut it off, but then we'll also repost the class. And if you sign up for the class, you'll get a link to the video. But what that's going to provide everyone is an overview of what that strategic decision-making model class is. Chris and Eric are going to talk about the overview of the class. It's really an introduction. So if you're either on the fence about going to the class or you just want to learn more about the strategic decision-making model, how it applies to Blue Card, making decisions on the scene, what goes through an incident commander's head, join us on December 6th for that 1 hour presentation. And we will have time for questions and answers. That's why we want to limit it to 250 people. So everyone has an opportunity. If you have a question for Chris or Eric during the class, that you're able to get in and actually get your questions answered. So that's the reason there is a limit. You'll be able to watch the video after the fact, but more the merrier. We'd love to have people on live with us so we can interact and get people's questions on the strategic decision-making class answered by the guys who are actually delivering it. And then after that, you can decide whether or not that workshop sounds like it's the right thing for your agency or you, and you can go ahead and sign up for it. So, but it is free. Our 1 hour webinar, all of our webinars are free. So anytime you see that we have a webinar posted, we have done a couple in the past, like one on grants. Just sign up for it. You get it for free, and you can go back and watch it afterwards too, because we'll send you a link to view it on demand whenever you want after it's live.
And we're keeping all those webinars, right, John, on our YouTube channel. So, that's another place that they could go visit to see anything that we've done. And I don't want to pass it over, and John doesn't give himself credit sometimes for stuff, but, we have an intention. Our intention is that we're going to start doing more and more free webinars with, people who are part of the B Shifter family, the fire departments out there, their experiences, what they've come across, how can they help, other people. So, if you can't make it, actually to the time when it is and ask live questions and see it live, we're going to make sure that we have these webinars available, like so many of our other things, podcasts and everything else, archive, so that you can get to it and see it, because we want this to be a place that you can go to help you get through what you deal with in your own organization that somebody else has probably maybe already experienced. So
yeah, it really helps us out if you like and subscribe, like I said at the beginning, so you get all that content from YouTube. I think we have about almost 60 videos posted right now, and in 2024 that's going to explode. I'm leaving my full-time employment as a fire chief after 22 years of wearing the white shirt. I'm going to be devoting a lot more time to Blue Card and B Shifter. Still sticking in the fire service. I've got some other opportunities that I'll be doing, but this will become my main focus. So I'm looking forward to that. So I just want to get everyone teed up so you don't miss a thing, because our plans in 2024 is to keep cranking out the content and getting you the information that you need to help you make great decisions at your fire department, to help you lead your people. And most importantly, part of our mission is just building great incident commanders out there. So we're going to continue working on that in 2024. And I'm looking forward to actually having more time to put into this, because, it's been a labor of love for me, because I love sharing the information and getting the word and spreading the word. But you'll see even more in 2024. So I'm excited about that.
And if you all that are out there watching or listening have something that you want to talk to us about, or get on a webinar or get on a podcast, please send it over to us, and we'd be more than happy to plug you in, because we can all learn and have to learn from each other.
Absolutely. Well, just looking back at 2023, it was such a busy year for us. What does some of the stats look like? If we, Jelly Roll just said the windshield's much larger than the rear view mirror, so we don't look back too much. But I think to give you credit and the rest of the Blue Card instructors and everybody who made a lot of stuff happen in 2023, like how many new instructors did we put on? How many ICs did we put on? What did 2023 look like for us?
So we did 41 train-the-trainer classes, which is more than ever. We did 23 workshops, whether it was a Mayday workshop, Division Ops, the critical thinking class, expanded command ops. We did some some tactical decision-making work with a few organizations. We delivered 7 of the safety train-the-trainers, so the size up fire extinguishment tactics classes, with it's 2 days, you keep the fire prop, all of that. And the numbers for actual instructors, we put 437, or by the end of the year, we will have put 437 new instructors on. We actually got a trainer starting Monday in Fairfield, Ohio here, that people kept signing up, and then it was full, and then they said, can we do more? So we got 20 students in that class with a waiting list of 12 that wanted in it. So right after the first of the year, sometime, well, after May, we'll end up adding some people, some more people from this region. So 437 instructors, and we will have put about 7,500 plus new people on with new online accounts. So starting into the system. And as we look forward in 2024, here we are, December 2nd or whatever it is. And right now I have 27 train-the-trainer classes scheduled for 2024 with 18 or 19 fire departments that I'm just waiting on dates for their class. And a lot of that work is in the Northeast, from some of those large regional grants. So that's something we're seeing. Organizations are coming together. One of them has got 19 fire departments that came together and got a grant, and they're going to put 1,000 people online and train almost 100 instructors. So, the windshield is definitely bigger than the rearview mirror. And, I always say that I can see much further looking forward with the headlights than I can the reverse lights, right? I can't see very far behind me, which I try to stay that way, right? Let's stay focused and looking forward. And I'm really looking forward to 2024 and beyond. And I'm really looking forward to you coming on board like all the time, so that we can do so many more things and keep the focus like we always have at the customer, as Bruno would want us to do, right? I mean, what can we do to keep the customer moving forward, giving them all the tools that they need to keep them moving forward? I'm really looking forward to that. And right now we got 6 confirmed workshops scheduled with multiple organizations that we're really just waiting on dates. A couple more big box workshops. I got a handful of organizations that want that critical thinking and decision making class. We got a few organizations that are looking at the Division Ops and the Mayday workshop, and they want to run that back to back, which we're not like a big fan of that, because it becomes a lot, right? I don't know that students sitting in class for 4 days is, I don't know how beneficial, that necessarily is, because it would be the same people. But we got a lot going on. So, I mean, if you're looking to do something in 2024, just reach out. My email's always in the show notes, josh@bshifter.com, or you can call me. My information's, always out there. But if you're looking to do something, the sooner you'd be willing to get it onto the books, the more flexibility we would have. And with how much work we're just waiting on agencies to give us dates for, the availability is going to get more and more, limited the more time passes. So
one other, we talk about the buck slip so casually, But then I get questions every week about what is the Buck Slip. So the Buck Slip is our weekly newsletter. We put it out every week since January 1st, whether it's we don't take a vacation. So if it's a vacation day, it's a Tuesday, that Buck Slip comes out. And it's the latest information for leaders and incident commanders. So all of the articles that we used to have in the Bee Shifter magazine that we used to put out 3 times a year are now on the Buck Slip. So you can get those articles in real time instead of waiting for a trimester to go by until you can actually read it. We put it out every week so you can get that fresh information. And then any announcements that we have about Blue Card or Bee Shifter, we put in there as well. So if we're doing something new, an announcement is put out about a workshop, it's going to be in there. So ask your people if they see it. There are people who don't open it, don't read it, don't know about it. But I'll give you an example. We put all 8 of our SOGs out this year, and those were all directly tied into the Buck Slip. And the only way right now that you can get those, and we're going to expand this in 2024, but right now, the way you get those is actually by subscribing. So the Bee Shifter Buck Slip is in the show notes if you have not subscribed yet. And then, pass it on to people within your agency. It is free, and it's intended for anybody to read. So even if you're not a Blue Card user, somebody is not a Blue Card IC within your organization, still pass it on to them because it's a lot of great information. And it really runs the gamut from the chief level on down to a lot of things that happen with that IC number 1 when they get on the scene and some of their responsibilities when it comes to command. So we're talking to people who are riding the right front seat and what it is that they need to do, and they write articles about it. And then from the chief's perspective, and then a lot of leadership content in there as well. So Bee Shifter Buck Slip, please subscribe to that. Okay, anything else, Josh, on what we've been doing here lately before we switch gears?
Yeah, the only other thing I'm going to throw out there is just everybody stay tuned, and it's been in the Buck Slip a bunch, but everybody stay tuned and just watch for information starting to roll out from Nick and Terry's Silverback leadership, because we've talked about it a little bit, but that program, just like the magazine or delivery model, we're changing gears with that a little bit, and we're going to roll that out in sections kind of instead of a whole big package. And then when it's all finished and packaged, it'll be, all together. But as they have chapters, if you will, finished, they're going to roll that out and actually, offer some workshops and classes on that. So just stay tuned, and you can find that information at bshifter.com and the Buck Slip when we actually get that posted. So I'm sure Terry and Nick will get them on this webinar and get them to talk a little bit more about, what that looks like. And that's one of the things we're probably going to do in the webinars, like, 45-minute, educational pieces on, the whole Silverback leadership. What does that really mean? Connecting that anatomy and physiology. I know that's a big part of the Silverback leadership. That's just one of the books that Bruno pushed out, right? That what does that really mean and what does it look like? So just stay tuned for that.
All right, switching gears a little bit, the latest NIOSH report is out, and we'll link to that as well. So if you need to find that new NIOSH report, you can look at it. The information that we tend to get is pretty consistent out of there. And we always say, especially during Mayday Day or Mayday Workshop, we haven't really found new ways to kill ourselves in the fire service. It seems to be the same thing. This week, you and I and some of the other lead instructors were bouncing back and forth. A major metropolitan fire department actually had a floor collapse in which some firefighters, how did the PIO state that? Gently rode the floor down. I mean, it wasn't, they never used the word collapse, but it was like they were gently lowered to the next floor down or whatever. It's like, well, that sounds like a collapse to me. But these aren't new, right? I mean, whether it's a collapse or any of the shortcomings that we see on the fire ground with incident commanders that get identified. And in this latest report, it talked about it was kind of a new thing that I think I know what it is, but I wanted to ask you about it. And it was talking about the incident commander having task saturation. What is the definition of the incident commander having task saturation in your book, Josh?
There's a lot of things going on in the fire ground, and the incident commander is responsible for and owns all of the things that are really happening, right? So that 30,000 foot foot view. So when we talk about command, whether it's fire command or any command or coaching a team, and I've talked about this so many times on the podcast already, you can only manage what you can manage, and you can only do what you can do. And the more is going on, the less that you can really do yourself, right? So it's what your education, experience, comfort level, it kind of lines up with Steve Lester's 3 C's, in my opinion, in some ways, right? As far as what that one person can do, but how can they help themselves? So the incident commander has more going on than they can really do. And we've heard all the numbers. I can manage 3 to 5 companies as long as they got a company officer and they're managing their, 1 or 2 people. And with that, I'm going to just put it back to task saturation, whether it's the incident commander or a company officer. And I'm going to talk about just briefly an incident that happened in Texas that we had somebody on here on the podcast talking about, that, the company officer and their firefighter and another person are inside of a building, gets caught in a little bit of a cotton, I don't want to say collapse, but the cotton basically had fallen over, not on top of them, but had fallen on top of their hose line. They couldn't figure out how to get back out. They start running low on air. Though the fire wasn't crazy, it was totally sprinkler controlled. There was so much going on. And when it became an issue of the reality of, we might not get out of here and I might die in a cotton warehouse, you lose the ability to think and do as much as you could do as if it was a controlled environment, right? So in that case, 1 company officer, 2 firemen inside the building. And when the company officer gets outside the building with the firefighter he was right next to, which is who he was the most concerned about, because that was who was right in front of him. It took a decent amount of time before the company officer realized, holy shit, where's my 3rd firefighter? And I think that's a little bit of that task saturation piece, right? That there was a lot going on, and then it got serious, if you will, and they couldn't process, all that information. So I think the same thing with an incident commander. And with an incident commander, we have to be willing to help ourselves with that. And the way we help ourselves with task saturation as an incident commander is, 1, using job aids and tools to help us remember and organize, right? So first of all, if you have a system where everybody's on the same page, that helps with task saturation, because people get an assignment and they do what they're supposed to do. That's a little piece of that. But, a strategic IC using a tactical worksheet helps them with some task saturation, because they're remembering things, but they're also documenting things so that we can reference that information. So that's a big deal. And then when we're talking about span of control, when I get past, those 3 companies maybe working in a geographic area, I can help myself by pushing a division boss forward to manage that geographic area, right? So helping build out the organization. The other thing the incident commander can do is put somebody in the vehicle with them to support them. So I'll make it super simple. I'm watching that Washington-Oregon game last night, right? And you look down the sideline and there's 35 or 40 people that got on headsets and clipboards and iPads and Microsoft whatever they got, right? And every one of those people were there supporting who? The head coach, the head guy, right? Plus the people that were up in the box. And they were very important to them, right? They were playing to win. And what is our next strategy? What are we going to do? Oh, they changed how they're playing. They changed how they're lined up. They changed whatever. They're going to do something different. Well, we help ourselves the same way on the fire ground. So we have company officers that manage the task level. Those people maintain accountability for their folks, and they do what they're assigned based off task location and objective. And then they communicate if they can't do it. So the direct connection to that next piece is they're connected right to the strategic IC. So the strategic IC manages those people via communications to them, giving them an assignment, and then they track that on the strategic IC worksheet. And then when they get to the point of, I have 3, or I'm expanding out a geographic area that I want some more support in to manage, then I push that division boss forward. And then the division boss is responsible for managing those, 3 to 5 companies, how many ever end up in that geographic area, boots on the ground, right? Using all of their senses, more face-to-face communications. And that lets the strategic IC manage the number of people that they can really manage, because maybe they have, still 3 to 5 people that are working directly for them, but the division boss has now taken responsibility for some of those other folks. So we can all only do what we can do, and really none of us are the same. So it's based on, knowledge, education, experience. That all plays into that task saturation. I mean, I've been exposed to, we all have, right? Incident commanders that, they do pretty good for, managing, 3, 5, 6, companies. But I always say, until what? Something happens, right? Until it gets real, if you will. Like somebody says, Mayday, 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 or priority traffic comes out, or, things aren't going as you thought they were. And then it's like, well, that ain't going to go for shit. And then I've also been exposed to the people who, the one person struggles to manage themselves. And I'm not being, nasty about it, but it's true, right? I mean, if you can't manage yourself and be organized and work in a way that is efficient and effective, then you surely can't manage, a bigger group of people. So, when we talk about task saturation, I think that, we could probably do a class for a week on task saturation, right? I mean, the critical thinking piece and what that might tie into with what we do in the critical thinking class that Stewart and Phillips are teaching, because I pull up and I got 10 critical fireground factors. Well, what are the top 3 that I'm going to address? But I still need to address the 7 others, but I'm just going to address these top 3 first. And everything's fine as long as it's going the way we want it to. But when it changes, conditions change or whatever, and it comes down to more critical thinking, not accidental success. We all go to fires, one hand line puts it out, high five, great job, let's go back to quarters. And it's like, well, what could we have learned from that? It gets different when we have an incident and we're not expecting what we encounter. And I'll give you an example that just happened here in this county recently. A longtime company officer is going through some critical thinking task level decision making on the drill ground. And one of the things was they pull up, they're just doing a size up. There's multiple companies there. They're assigning a few companies. They're doing a follow-up report. During their follow-up report, a parent grasps onto them and is like, my kid is in that window, just to like sidetrack them on like, what are we really going to do with this? So if you haven't or hadn't thought about that before it happened, this guy got locked up. Like, he's like, I'm not sure what to do here. And he didn't say that, but he was just mentally and physically locked up. The value of it is they had now experienced that. Though it was in a training ground, it gives them something to think about, right? Like, what am I going to do if that happens? Well, whether you're talking about the strategic IC being task saturated or that first due company officer who is also the IC being task saturated, it's the same exact thing, right? Like, what can they really do? And just to kind of close that up is it really comes down to knowledge, education, training, and experience. Like, how does all of that line up to let you do or help you do what you need to do?
Everyone has a role on the fireground, and I try not to get into these Twitter debates, but this week there was one out there, and I just take it in because it drives me on our mission, on what we need to do as far as educating people on the responsibilities of incident commanders and the people who support those incident commanders. But again, it was this discussion debate on what hand tools should a chief be carrying with them. And I was like, what? As a chief, now I understand some people are in situations where you're pulling up with 3 people. Mm-hmm. That's different than a standard response. I'm talking about a standard response situation.
Yeah, we did a podcast on that little piece before you, just not to cut you off, John, but we did a podcast, right? Deerfield Township, Hamilton Township, Ohio. They pull up, some limited staffing in that geographic area, and the incident commander assigns a fire chief and an assistant chief, as he should, because it's in their system, and those guys wear their gear and they wear their air pack and they train and do task level work still because of how they have to operate. Though there was a strategic IC sitting in a car, he assigns a chief and an assistant chief to go do a search, and they pull somebody out. That's way different than what we're talking about or what anybody else is talking about, right? I mean, their rank had nothing to do with anything with their assignment. Their rank was, you guys are also firemen, and I'm going to use you in that capacity right now, because the critical factor is I have somebody known for sure to be trapped, and we're going to get them out, while another company was stretching a hand line. And they did, right? So that's just a piece of that. So I always want to clarify that, because just because it's your rank don't mean shit. You should still be able to do that job. It's what your actual assignment and position is. So
correct. And what this thing was, though, was more like, hey, we need the chief in there with us, because they need to be feeling what we're feeling, and they need to be doing what we're doing. Everyone has a role on the fire ground. Mm-hmm. And this blurry line between, I'm going to get involved in tasks as a chief, we see videos of it all the time. We hear about it all the time. And we also read about it in NIOSH reports at line of duty deaths. And it's been well documented in some very large loss of life fires on commercial occupancies, that the chiefs end up becoming not strategic and involved in task level work. Mm-hmm. So that's the two different things. If you're the IC and you're IC number 2, you've got multiple companies working, you've done that command transfer, that there's a big difference between that and you're a later arriving chief, and a critical factor needs to be addressed, and you're going to get assigned to take care of that critical factor. So those are two different things. But, a lot of this, I think, is window dressing, that people want to feel a certain way about their chiefs. This is a working chief versus an office chief and all this other stuff that happens politically within the fire service. But I think it's really good to differentiate the two and talk about what that job description looks like. And as IC number 2, even, you need to be able to change. So, recently we had a rescue. The BC was the first one there. They thought the lady was right behind the door, so they forced the door, and she was gone. And he realized at that moment that he needed to peel himself back and say, okay, I need to go get in the car now, because people are arriving. I'm going to have them do the rescue. They need somebody to coordinate it all. Mm-hmm. And thankfully that IC, who was a captain acting up into a battalion chief's role, was educated enough and was smart enough to know, I now need to supervise this, because I'm getting so many people on the scene that can actually do that work. I just need to coordinate it. So it's different at every fire, but it's standard conditions, standard action, standard outcomes that kind of brings it all together for us as our agencies, depending on what our staffing level is and what needs to happen at the time.
Yeah, I mean, a strategic IC, their tools are, I'm in my vehicle at 70 degrees, temperature controlled. I got a very strong radio. I got a worksheet that I can document on. And I can see clearly out this, window, what's going on, and use my MDC and other things at that 30,000 foot level to assign people, right? And then, division bosses, just as we outline in our program, right? When you get to organization, we spend a ton of time talking about what does that really look like? How are they dressed? Why are they dressed that way? And, a division boss dresses and looks just like a firefighter, right? And, some of their key tools, though, is their tactical accountability board, so that they can keep accountability for those people there. All their appropriate PPE, a thermal imaging camera, I think a huge tool. The more we can use all of those tools to help us evaluate what the critical factors are, the better. But, a division boss standing in the front yard with a 6-foot hook and a Halligan ain't the answer, right? And if I'm going to send, John, if you and I were working together and I needed somebody to go in there to supervise companies and I had these other roles filled, then yeah, I mean, I don't care what rank you are. Chief, I need you to go in there with Engine 7 and Engine 9, and you're assigned to Engine 9 now because they don't have a boss with them, and you're working with them. Well, that's totally different than what people are talking about, like, well, what tools do they take with them, right? I mean, yes. If I'm standing on the roof of a house while they're doing vertical ventilation, but I'm the strategic IC, you're in the wrong spot. I did not see either one of those football coaches step foot on that field while the play was going on last night. What they were doing was 30,000 foot listening to what was going on the headset from the people in the box above and trying to figure out, what did this play just look like? Did it work? Did it not work? And what are we going to do next? Because if you become part of,
Well, we could talk about this NIOSH report all day, and we're getting ready to run out of time. But I will link to it because there is a lot of good information in there. As always, it talks a lot about the size up, the risk assessment, and IAP or lack of, incomplete duties of command safety, and also not having an aide for the incident commander, or in our world, we'd call that a support officer. So read it, learn from it. That's why they're out there. Prevent it from happening to your organization by learning from what's happened in the past. Well, as we wrap up, do you have anything else to add today?
No, the only thing I want to throw out there is, NFPA 1561 gets thrown out there, a lot, and we'll see that in these reports. And you said command safety. So, two things on that, just to put it out there for people. Because one, people say command safety and they're like, well, what does that really mean? And command safety really is, if you take the command book that Chief Brunacini wrote, and then you take this book, it says command safety on it. That's what they're talking about. Brunacini, command safety. That's the book that came out in 2000 after Brett Tarver died in 2003. That was really an update to the second edition of Fire Command. So, that's what they're talking about with that. And then NFPA 1561, that is, it outlines so many things, and they reference back to, building an organization and proper communications and different levels on the fire ground and strategic IC and all of those pieces. So that sounds so familiar to all of us that do Blue Card, because what Blue Card is the training program on fire command and command safety, the books or the reference books, right? And we know that when we look at NFPA 1561 and we tie it all back together, that a very large portion of everything that's written in there, eight functions of command, evaluation of critical fireground factors, using a strategic decision-making model. Well, that sounds very familiar to me, that that came right from Fire Command. And then Blue Card teaches us, how do we really apply that? What does it really mean? And how does it benefit us in the field? So I just wanted to put that out there, because we do get some questions on, well, it's NFPA 1561, but what's the training? Well, a lot of the training is what we do in Blue Card, and Blue Card is the training program on fire command and command safety, those two books. So, yeah, leave you with that.
I'm glad you defined that, because we do get that question a lot of times, asking what is command safety. So that's very good. All right, Josh, we're wrapping it up. So I know we'll have a couple more podcasts in December. So stay tuned, subscribe, like, tell a friend, pass it on, and we'll have all the information. We'll have a ton of show notes today. So a lot of information in the show notes for all the stuff that we've talked about. All right. Have a good one, Josh. Thank you.
You too. Thanks, John.